Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for joining us. The federal government has been slapped with a lawsuit. Advocates say it is failing on its responsibility to protect agricultural workers when it comes to pesticide safety. CBC's Jacob Barker has more.
A union representing agricultural workers across the country says the information workers get when handling pesticides is insufficient. It's suing the federal government with the aim of forcing it to enforce rules it says already exist.
It's high time for the federal government to simply do what it's already committed to do. And that's what this case is about.
In its lawsuit, the United Food and Commercial Workers says what are called safety data sheets are required to accompany pest control products to the workplace.
It might require you to wear PPE, to discard of any clothes you're wearing before you return to your home, making sure, washing your hands and faces, and wearing, taking various protective measures for yourselves. Also, might say that it shouldn't be mixed with another chemical or another pesticide, because it's not just the use of one pesticide is the problem, it's the use of several pesticides can have cumulative effects.
There are hundreds of pesticide products registered to be used, according to the lawyers who are arguing the case, but they can't say how many are being used on Canadian farms. The lawsuit points out that the sheets are a requirement as it is written in the Pest Control Safety Act, but according to the lawsuit, the government's position is that providing them is voluntary for those who are registering the product.
It's unfortunate the government has taken to using the term voluntary when it comes to providing basic information about chemicals and pesticides that workers handle. This is not a choice. This is not a recommendation by government. This is a right enshrined in health and safety law. The right to know is the first step when it comes to a worker's health and safety rights.
Here, workers are learning about safety sheets and what they could provide for them. They're also learning how to treat dangerous chemicals in the workplace and what to do if they're exposed to them.
Your eyes could burn, your skin could feel burning, tingling, like tingling and numbness can be another sign of exposure to pesticides.
This worker asked to remain anonymous because she fears reprisals from her employer. She says she has used pesticides at a company she worked for, but didn't get any information about how to handle it.
We need it because sometimes you don't know what it is that you're using. And then sometimes we have accidents, but we don't know how to act because there isn't that information.
Health Canada refused to comment on the matter, citing pending litigation. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Leamington.
City Council is closing Sandpoint Beach after the drowning death of a 15-year-old last month. The decision was made at the council meeting this afternoon, with councillors saying that they want to wait until the coroner's investigation is complete into the death before deciding next steps.
There's something going on there, and I don't think that we can make an informed decision until we know what comes back from the coroner. We know what the facts are.
I don't want to signal to the community that I'm prepared to eliminate swimming altogether in that space, but it's on the table.
The city hasn't said when the closure will start, and it's unclear if the entire beach will be shut down or just access to the water. On May 19th, OPP divers recovered the body of a 15-year-old who disappeared in the water near the beach the previous day. Police said two teenagers were swimming just west of the beach when one went under the water and did not resurface. 9 people have drowned while swimming at the beach since 1986. Council agreed that once the coroner's report is released, they will then revisit future plans for Sandpoint Beach, which had included moving the beach to the east to a safer zone. And another issue that came before council is that the city of Windsor is more than $2.5 billion short when it comes to covering expected infrastructure repairs over the next decade. CBC's Chris Ensing breaks it down.
Windsor owns more than $16 billion worth of stuff, from roads to ice rinks. Generally, it's in good condition, but keeping it that way will cost $2.6 billion more than what City Council has in its decade budget, the 10-year capital plan, according to a new city report. Staff suggests that council should consider raising taxes, selling stuff off, or taking on debt to close that gap. Staff track the condition of everything the city owns and how much it would cost to replace it. It's called the Asset Management Plan. Half of what the city owns is in good or very good condition. About 19% is nearing or at the end of its life cycle. Windsor's highest valued asset are the pipes and treatment facilities that manage storm and wastewater. They're worth more than $6 billion. The city currently spends about $85 million a year keeping them in shape, but the updated plan says keeping these assets in good shape requires $28 million more each year. Staff did this for all of Windsor's assets and found an annual funding gap of nearly $114 million. Left unchecked, that balloons to $2.6 billion with inflation in 10 years, $5 billion in 20 years. There's also warnings in this plan that some assets may have been underfunded. Transit Windsor is one example. The garage, the buses, the bus stops are generally in fair condition. Improving them to good condition assets would take another $6.8 million a year. City staff say the overall gap is happening despite record levels of capital investment. One key change council made 6 years ago was approving a special asset management plan and residential road repair tax. It's brought in $118 million to date, all spent on rebuilding or replacing city infrastructure. But staff warned that inflation and market pressures have outpaced that spending. These plans are prepared by cities across Ontario and required by the province. For comparison, Ottawa's looking at a $10.8 billion budget funding gap over the next decade and plans to hike water fees and take on debt to fight that off. Toronto's plan shows an $18 billion gap and says a negotiated deal with the Ontario government is going to help bring that down. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
And council has since deferred the asset management plan to a future meeting. Khalil Hassan Ali is with us now for our first look at weather. Khalil, not a bad start to the week today.
I'm liking it. It's looking really nice now that some of that smoke and that cloud cover has gone from the fire. So that's really good for us over the next little while. So let's look at what's coming up over the next couple of days that you can expect. A cool night, pleasant 72 hours ahead. And then as we head towards the weekend, it could get a little bit unsettled. So we were talking about that smoke just a little bit earlier. This is what it's looking like. So just a little bit of that overhang that we're going to be dealing with over the next couple of days, but it is going to be pretty good overall. So nothing too bad, just a little bit of light cover. And as we go through the next little bit, it's going to be pretty nice. Looking at 24. Wednesday looks like it's going to be the breadwinner, 29 degrees, but it is going to be maybe a little bit windy as we go towards that Wednesday. And as you can see, and we'll have more on this coming up, a little bit unsettled.
Sounds good. Thanks so much, Khalil.
Thank you.
Back to local news now. A coroner's inquest into the death of a Windsor man at a local jail has begun. 31-year-old Joseph Grattan died of a fentanyl overdose at the Southwest Detention Center in October 2019. On the first day of the week-long inquest, jurors heard that a week before his death, Grattan had asked for and been denied a prescription for a drug that treats opioid addiction. So far, it is unclear why, but the inquest will hear from a nurse involved in the decision on Tuesday. Coroner's inquests examine the circumstances of non-natural deaths that happen while in custody. It is not a trial, but jurors will establish the details of the death and can make recommendations to prevent future deaths. The inquest is expected to last through the end of the week. In national news, Prime Minister Mark Carney says Canada will spend 2% of national GDP on defence this year. That increase will ensure Canada meets its commitment to NATO, whose members agreed to that target back in 2014. Kate McKenna has more.
Middle powers must compete for interests and attention, knowing that if they're not at the table, they're on the menu.
Prime Minister Mark Carney says the Canadian military is entering a new era as U.S. dominance on the world stage fades.
The United States is beginning to monetize its hegemony, charging for access to its markets and reducing its relative contribution to our collective security.
He says Canada will spend more than $9 billion more on defense by next March, and the country will finally hit the 2% of GDP spending target agreed to by NATO allies.
This is probably one of the most compelling articulations of national requirement, national ambition that I've heard from our Prime Minister as it relates to defense and security.
Well, I think it's a great step. It's something that the Conservatives have been calling for many years. In the last few decades, we hadn't been paying our fair share.
This announcement comes weeks before Carney is set to attend the NATO summit, where allies will discuss spending even more on defense.
The money is an important first step. If he'd have rolled in there without committing this funding to meet our 11-year-old spending target, he would not have had a lot of credibility amongst allies talking about what the new level of burden sharing should look like.
The Conservatives support defense spending, but want to know how the government will pay for it.
We support getting back to the 2% target as soon as possible, and we will support additional money for our military. That's why we're calling on the government to bring in a budget, because all of this will require a budget.
We have just begun the process to look for savings in government, to improve government productivity, to reallocate spending across government.
Even with this new money, expect more defense spending in the years to come. Carney made big election promises for new icebreakers, drones, and artillery, purchases that are not part of this announcement. Kate McKenna, CBC News, Ottawa.
And here's what some of you think about the defense spending announcement. Check it out.
He should take some time and discuss it over with some people, and then maybe they'll be able to make a proper decision and go ahead with that.
I don't know, it's kind of like a little bit scary because I don't know what Trump is going to do about that, and he's doing some crazy things.
Well, it has to be done. We can't keep relying on the United States for defense anymore. And from all the information that I've gathered, it's just our defense is so weak we couldn't stop anybody coming in. So it's about time. Like, talking is one thing. Putting the shovels in the ground, passing the bills, start getting stuff built and recruiting, that'll tell the tale.
Most of our neighbors and citizens around just surviving, you know, this is such amount of money supposed to go to help people who really need it.
Defense teams have started their closing arguments at a high-profile sex assault trial in London, Ontario. Megan Fitzpatrick has the story, but first, viewers may find some details in this story disturbing.
The 5 defendants make their way into a London courthouse for what is expected to be the last week of a lengthy and complicated trial that began in April. Closing submissions got underway today, and it's the lawyers for the defendants who are going first. Michael McLeod, Alex Formanton, Carter Hart, Dylan Dubé, and Cal Foote have all pleaded not guilty to 1 count each of sexual assault. McLeod is facing a second charge of being a party to a sexual assault. His lawyer, David Humphrey, was the first defense lawyer to make closing arguments. He told Justice Maria Caracia that the Crown's case hinges on the complainant's testimony. She's known by the initials EM, and he called that testimony flawed. She's a witness with an entirely unbelievable and unreliable version of events, Humphrey said. He argued that EM created a false narrative of what happened in the early hours of June 19, 2018, because she was embarrassed and regretted the choices she made. It suited her purposes to present herself as a victim rather than take responsibility for those choices, Humphrey told the court. At the core of this case is the question of consent. When EM testified for 9 days, she said she had consensual sex with McLeod when they first got to the hotel, but was then surprised when other men came to the room, and that she did not consent to these sexual activities that followed. Humphrey argued that EM was a willing participant. Carter Hart's lawyer Megan Savard made a similar argument when she began her closing submissions. Hart was the only defendant to testify during the trial, and Savard urged the judge to view him as a credible witness. Her client obtained unequivocal, communicated consent to oral sex, Savard told the judge.
We believe EM.
Supporters of EM were at the courthouse today chanting, "We believe EM," as the defendants passed by them.
You know, survivors should never be blamed for their own assault, and you often feel really alone when you've gone through something as horrific as sexual assault. So showing that, you know, people believe you, people support you, and you're not alone is really important to help people get the support that they need.
These closing submissions are expected to take several days. Once all the defense teams are finished, it will be the Crown's turn to make their final arguments. Megan Fitzpatrick, CBC News, London, Ontario.
Welcome back. In the Middle East, Israel has intercepted a boat carrying Greta Thunberg and other activists. The stated intention of those on the boat was to deliver aid to Gaza, but Israel calls the boat the selfie yacht and says it was a publicity stunt. Crystal Gamansing reports.
The 12 activist crew members who were on board the Madeleine are expected to return to their home countries. Israeli government spokesperson David Mencer said Israel has no intention of detaining them for any period of time. Those with the Freedom Flotilla Coalition say they spent most of the day trying to figure out the whereabouts of the crew. Their last interaction with them was around 3 a.m. That's when Israel Defense Forces intercepted the vessel as it made its way from Italy towards Gaza. They boarded at about 3 a.m. and there were some images released at that time. There was also a lot of attention paid to pre-recorded messages from those on board. Those messages were meant to encourage people around the world to call for their release.
If you see this video, we have been intercepted and kidnapped in international waters by the Israeli occupational forces or forces that support Israel. I urge all my friends, family and comrades to put pressure on the Swedish government to release me and the others as soon as possible.
Mencer was asked about the language used in that video, and he took exception to Greta Thunberg using the phrase kidnapped.
In more than 20 months, Greta has not found one single moment to call on the release of our hostages. Not one single moment. And she has the chutzpah to say that she has been kidnapped.
While there was some aid on board the vessel, Mencer said this wasn't about feeding Gazans. He said it was about feeding individual egos. Crystal Gamansing, CBC News, Jerusalem.
More U.S. National Guard troops are on the streets of Los Angeles after a weekend of violence. U.S. President Donald Trump authorized the deployment after protesters rioted to stop immigration arrests. California's governor wants to sue Trump because he says the state should have been consulted. Steve Futterman reports.
After a night of confrontations, tear gas and pepper spray, police were very present and very visible. The violence of the last 3 days has shaken the city. Even officials have been shocked by the degree of violence.
It's escalated now since the beginning of this incident. What we saw the first night was bad. What we've seen subsequent to that is getting increasingly worse and more violent.
On Sunday night, for the first time, there was significant looting. The big fear is the possibility of new raids and detainments of undocumented immigrants. That would amp up already heightened tensions.
We will not be silent! We will not be silent! And we will not be intimidated.
Donald Trump's decision to deploy National Guard troops has also brought anger.
If I didn't get involved, if we didn't bring the Guard in, and we would bring more in if we needed it, because we have to make sure there's going to be law and order.
It's a peaceful march, and we will not be intimidated by the federal troops that have been unleashed into our communities. We stand strong, and we stand as one.
The last time National Guard troops were brought to LA to deal with civil unrest was more than 30 years ago, after the not guilty verdict for police officers accused of beating Rodney King. A midday rally took place, drawing a few thousand people, many carrying new signs that have suddenly become popular. City officials are urging people to stay peaceful, but that could be a tough thing to ask for, especially with emotions so high. Police say another problem is outside agitators who simply want to cause trouble. Steve Futterman for CBC News, Los Angeles.
And an Australian TV reporter was shot with a rubber bullet on Sunday while covering the protests in LA.
The LAPD moving in on horseback, firing rubber bullets at protesters, moving them on through the heart of LA.
A police officer in riot gear is seen pointing and shooting at reporter Lauren Tomasi. Her news organization says Tomasi and her camera operator are safe and continuing their work. When we come back, Khalil Hassan Ali will be with us for more on weather. Stay with us. Khalil Hassanali is back with us now for more on weather. Khalil, we are starting the week off right.
Yep.
Good weather today, and it's looking like that's here to stay for the next few days.
Yeah, especially as we head into Wednesday. So we'll get to that because that looks like it's going to be probably the nicest day of the week. So what do we have in store over the next little bit? Overnight tonight, dropping down to about 12 degrees. So a bit cool, but we'll bounce back from that nicely tomorrow. So a pleasant 72 hours up ahead. And then as we head to the weekend, maybe a little bit of a shift with some wet weather coming in. Now, the big talk around the country has been the wildfires, and it's really started to dissipate in terms of the cloud cover that we've been seeing in southwestern Ontario, and that's going to continue to be the case as we go through the next 72 hours or so. So looking at this cloud cover, blue means light, clear, nothing means even less. So that's what we're looking at as we head into tomorrow afternoon. Getting into green, maybe that little bit of cloud cover as we get towards the nighttime. So not too bad in terms of that overall cloud cover, that high cloud cover from the smoke. So we got up to 26 degrees today. Gorgeous afternoon. Our average high temperature in and around 19. That sunset going at about 8:43 this evening. So looking like it's going to be a nice, pleasant evening. Right now, we're at 24 degrees, a little bit cooler as we head towards the GTA. So looking like it's going to be a nice evening. And then it's cooling down quite fast as we get through the overnight, and that cloud cover does start to go away. So getting down to 12 once again overnight. In terms of the next little bit, what are we looking at? Not in terms of overall precipitation, that there's going to be much of that. So that's pretty good. Looking like we're going to be dry in and around Windsor, at least over the next 24 to 36 hours. So that's pretty good. As we head into the afternoon tomorrow, we do have a slight, very, very slight chance of some precipitation just dropping on us towards the late afternoon. So in and around this time, so 24 hours from now. But that's still a low, no longer a big worry for us in terms of chance. About 40% is what we're looking at. Looking ahead, so once again, 40% chance of rain tomorrow, getting up to 24 degrees, 13 degrees tomorrow overnight. Looking at Wednesday, look at that. I just, my heart glows with that. No cloud cover expected. 29 degrees is the high. It's going to feel even warmer than that. There is going to be a little bit of wind that you need to deal with, but it's nothing too bad that we have to look at. Getting into an unsettled end to the work week. Thursday, 26 degrees, 50% chance of rain. And then Friday, Saturday, looks like it is going to be a little bit more unsettled and dropping down in terms of that temperature down to the low 20s. But can't complain too much.
We can't complain too much. I'm telling myself it won't be that bad. It'll be okay.
We'll make it.
Thanks so much, Khalil. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.